Hey, how y'all doing there? This is Bob Costello, Tweaklean, and we're here doing a video this morning about actually how I got 500 users on Twitter in one day at the end of 2011. We are talking about November 30th. There's the screen there. And that's plus 528 people at that point in time. And here's my Twitter follower list. On Google Chrome, you have to refresh this. So I refresh this. And these are people that have followed me. You can see my numbers are actually really they are astounding. They're growing by a crazy amount. And this is not something that happened overnight. So please, I don't want you to think that it did. But I do want to demystify this and show you a little bit about how I accomplished this. That is the whole point of my message for 2012, the idea of social technocracy, that knowledge should be free. And this knowledge was gained very simply just through experimentation. And you can see, like, if we look at my monthly stats, that'll give us a better idea that, like, on the 13th of November, I was actually at 13,000. I was down. I was growing a little bit over the last 3 months. You can see 6 months ago, actually, when I had my surgery, you can see this is kind of when I came back in June. And you can kind of see, like, I've had like this slow growth. And then in the last month, it kind of spiked up because I was focusing now primarily on my own work. And here we are. You see, like, over these last few days, we had quite a jump, 150 in one day, then 151, and then 528. And how did this occur? Well, there's so much to it, of course. Learning how to use the Twitter environment is very important. This is a tool that I use. It's TweetDeck. And you can see that I'm actually engaged in some conversation with people who mention me. And I have these different lists of people that I use, and that's how I keep track of my timelines. And if you don't know anything about lists, let me show you just a bit. If we come back here to Twitter, if we go back to my home page, you can see the lists here. And let me zoom in a little bit on this here. I have this small because I have so many people, but there's my lists. And like here's my list, for example, like my top 500. It's a list I've been keeping track of for a long time. And if I want to view that list, for example, lists by you, here's all my lists, here's my top 500. I can look at this list, and then I can see all the people that I'm following. That's 392 people. And these are people that are very good about following other people back, and they're very talkative, and this is one of my lists. And one of the ways that I make lists is when I'm actually following people back. For example, let me show you what I mean. I'll go to my home page, and I'm going to go to see some of my followers, and I'm just going to make them a little smaller again. This is a long process to go through and follow people manually, and unfortunately when you're getting these kind of numbers, you have to watch out for Twitter limits. Like, for example, if you follow more than 1,000 people in a day, Twitter doesn't like that. They'll shut you down for 24 hours or however long it takes to get past the number of people you followed. If you unfollow more than 1,000 people a day, they don't like that either. So you have to be very careful, and you have to, I think about it a little bit like bullets in the social media world. I can unfollow 1,000 people a day and clean out my list, or I can follow 1,000 people a day, but then Twitter's going to shut me down for a while, so I have to manage this. So I'm just going to follow these people back, and this is how I do this. This is exactly how I do this. I go through and I use Twitter as my tool. So Twitter knows that I'm following these people. You can auto follow back anyone who follows you. That is in the official Twitter rules. And if you haven't seen the official Twitter rules, I tweet about them every day. Let's go to my list here, Control F. I'm going to look for rules. This is my rules page. Here you go. Here's the official Twitter rules page, actually. And just bring that up. And you can see Twitter actually does have its own set of rules about following, and they have policies, guidelines, best practices for auto following and unfollowing and things like that. Automation rules, something as you get larger you want to learn about, you know, and this is very important information. So, like the follow rules and best practices page is a page that I tell people to go to quite often. They monitor for the use of churn, which means following a lot of people and then unfollowing a lot of people. So you have to be very careful about how you do this. So I go through my followers, and first I'm making sure that I'm following everybody. And like I said, this is quite a task when you're doing it this way. But then here you can also manage people in lists. Like, for example, here is Online's NEH, and she has a Clout score of 54. And I'm going to add her to a list, the Clout plus 50. And I can close that list. And now the great thing about that is when I come back to TweetDeck, she's instantly in my Clout plus 50 list. There are many other ways that you can follow people, like during my mentions. Like I'll get people and I can add them to groups and lists here. Like you can see Mr. Scott Eddy is in my Follow Friday list. He's also in my Great Tweets list. Learning to use lists and learning how to manage them is an important part of growing your following. One of the ways that I do this is I use a tool called Tweetbee. Like, for example, Tweetbee will show you that I'm following a certain number of people. Let's get a refreshed look at this. We're just going to manage Twitter, and I just use the free account here at tweetbee.com. And it shows that I'm following 692 people who are not following me back. Well, part of that is because I followed over the last few days about 1,000 people. I aggressively followed about 1,000 people over the course of 4 days, roughly about 250 people a day, so that Twitter wouldn't feel that I was aggressively churning. These people have not followed me back for one reason or another. This number started over 1,000 and I'm down at 692, so about 400 people followed me over the course of the last few days because I aggressively went out and I sought them. The rest of people came through passive contact, like just people doing follows on me or Follow Fridays here, like in the environment, retweeting my links, retweeting my posts, retweeting my news from the Tweet Clean technology page. People will retweet these. Like Social Review, Art in Motion, Marla Mace. There's a story about one of my people that I follow. And here's a story down here, I think, about maybe Marie's on page 2 by now. Not sure. Let me have to... Anyway, doing stories about... there you go, Marie. She's on page 2 by now. But, doing stories about other people I follow is an important part of my philosophy. It's part of social technocracy. It's the idea of reciprocity, giving back and forth. And this is a very important part of what we do. So I come over here to Tweetbee and I find somebody, like for example, a list that I want to find, like for example at Mr. Scott Eddy, for example. He's got some really nice lists. Like for example, if you go to his list number 1 and get the list, you can see that this tool will give you about 40 results per page. Why is that? Because Twitter will only give you 100 results per page. And because of the way Twitter is set up, you can't pull them in any sort of order. You have to pull all the information down at one time. And you'll see on this page I've sorted it so that it's by the last tweet. And each page, like Java Joe just tweeted less than a minute ago. But some of these people have not tweeted for 13 days or 23 days or a month or 2 months ago or 4 months ago, or what's even worse, you see this unknown or never. And that has to do with the API calls. Tweetbee or any company cannot pull down all of the API calls needed and still allow you to not be looked at as a spammer by Twitter. It's amazing. The larger of the number of people you follow and have following, the more suspicious your behavior seems to Twitter because of its rules set in place for people with 10 or 15,000 followers. But so you have to go through each one of these pages, and then each one of these pages will tell you who's active. So I follow people who are active in the less than a day. I also use this tool to go back through my own lists, because if I have a list, let's say, for example, my list here, if you come to my site and you want to see my list and you look at my list and you say, if you look at it through Twitter, you can't tell which of these people are active and which are not unless you're actively listening to the stream. You can't tell if these people are recent or not, so you need a tool like Tweetbee that will tell you, well, no, that person hasn't tweeted for over a year. It's also a good way to say, to manage your like cleanup, for example. I come over here and I can look at people that are following me that I am following. These are all my friends, people that I follow and that follow me back. That's what Twitter calls them, friends. And you can see my list that none of my friends really have been away for very long, but there's one that's away for over a year. Do I really need to follow this person? And I need to keep this number smaller, this number that I'm following versus the followers, because people, I will need to follow people if I want to expand my list. And then you have to manage them. And the only way to really manage people is through something like TweetDeck or Hootsuite. Let me show you one of the things about, like, for example, here, let me show you a tip and a trick. The core is all your friends. Now here's a line. I'm going to move it over to the left, and you can see it's going to just like kind of go crazy here. And it's using up API calls at a phenomenal rate. If you don't know what an API call is, every time you talk to Twitter, it's a call. And you can see down at the bottom I have like a certain number of API calls, but you can see that this list is going pretty fast. Now it does have a filter on it, like for example I can say people who are only talking about links like HTTP, and then I apply that, and now you can see my list is slowed down, and these are people that are only tweeting links. Or you could really say anything that you want in there. You could say religion and search for people who are talking about religion, or you can, God or love, Twitter. Really anybody that's talking about anything you can filter, and you can look at people in this way. Like you may want to retweet people. So you go through this list, and that's how you manage large groups of people. And one of the things I like about this is, just that I can keep my Twitter line quiet. But growing people is a combination of you following people aggressively, allowing people to follow you back, which is why it's very important that you leave yourself follows to follow people back. And also, talk to people, engage in them, find out about them. Like, for example, these are like all my friends. I'm going to close this list. But, for example, like you can create another thing here in TweetDeck. Like, for example, groups and lists. Core is new followers. Like one of the things that you can have is a stream of new followers, and you can see all these people that are just following me today, and you can say hi to them, like say hi and follow here, like this girl and this man, and let's try and get some of them with larger groups together. 10,000 followers, 3,000 followers, 28 followers. I mean, these people, they deserve a mention, so I send them out. These are brand new followers. And this is how you grow your list organically. Anyway, that's a little bit about how I do this. And as you can see, I gained over 528 followers today. And that is the simple method that I used. Look for active people, look for people who are going to engage, and realize that not all of these people will continue to follow you, but if you get your numbers up to 300 and 400 a day by doing daily maintenance, I think you're doing pretty well. So good luck, and thank you for watching this video.